in apocalypse.
Were so big and so destructive, they couldn't be used. And through proxy battlefields across the world.
This is institutional insanity.
What would it mean for UNDA?
It was the worst geopolitical.
Neoliberalism is an economic and political philosophy advocating for minimal government intervention, focusing on free market, privatization, and deregulation. Its aim to transfer economic control from the public sector to private enterprise, promoting fiscal austerity, free trade, and reduce government spending and regulation. Neoliberalism started in the late 1940s as a response to economic issue and different ideas about how economy should work. Leaders like Margaret Thatcher in the UK and Ronald Reagan in US adopted this idea, shifting from government intervention after World War II to focus on market-driven solution.
Let's take a look at the characteristics of neoliberalism, focusing on its economy and political aspect. In terms of economy, we have a free market. The first free market is occasionally used similarly with the laissez-faire capitalism. In the free market, the economic system is based entirely on supply and demand with no interference by the government. This free market comprises of privatization, deregulation, free trade, and reducing public expenditure. Privatization is selling all state-owned companies and organizations to the private sector, such as banks, schools, and hospitals. Deregulation, government reduce their level of market intervention, including imposition of the company taxes. Free trade is highlighted by the globalization and increased trade and investment openness. Lastly, reducing public expenditure typically aims for the development of the infrastructure, health, and education, so the private sector in charge of overseeing this service management and the community accessibility. Neoliberalism also takes into account aspects of politics which are protecting human rights. Human rights are essential freedom that every person has, regardless of their race, nationality, and ethnicity. Combating human rights, neoliberalism has deliberately used human rights ideology to defend its policy, generally emphasizing individual liberties like the right to free assembly and freedom of speech. It is believed that these rights are vital for both market efficiency and economic liberty. Other than that, promoting democracy in terms of individual liberty and responsibility, people ought to have the freedom to choose and be responsible for their own action. This perspective supports the neoliberalism principle of individual liberty and a market-driven solution, which emphasize individual autonomy and choice, support its framework such as free and fair election.
Next, I would like to explain one of the factors contributing to the rise of neoliberalism theory, which is globalization. Globalization played a critical role in the rise of neoliberalism by connecting economies, cultures, and governments across borders. As international trade expanded, nations realized the needs for the policies that supported free markets, open borders, and reduced trade barriers. Neoliberalism fit perfectly, emphasizing minimal government intervention and fostering global commerce. Through globalization, businesses could outsource production, access international markets, and reduce costs, leading to economic growth and innovation. Similarly, governments embrace neoliberal policies to attract foreign investment and stay competitive in a fast-paced global economy. In essence, globalization fueled the demand for neoliberal reforms, transforming economics into interconnected market-driven system.
The second factor is individualism and consumerism. So these two concepts play a significant role in the rise of neoliberalism theories because individualism emphasizes on personal freedom and the belief that people should control their own destiny with a minimal government interference. So these ideas support the notions that a free market is the best way to give everyone a chance to succeed. And consumerism, on the other hand, encourages purchasing goods and services as a way to measure success and happiness. So in short, individualism is a personal freedom, while consumerism makes a room for the market to satisfy human needs and wants.
Next, for the advantages of neoliberalism theory. The first advantages is greater revenue for businesses. Neoliberalism promotes free trade and less government control, allowing businesses to expand globally and boost profits. For example, trade agreements like NAFTA help companies like Ford and General Motors to reduce production costs and increase international sales. For a second, advantages is access to more products and services. Free market policies encourage global trade, making a wider range of products available to consumers. For instance, the WTO stress liberalization helped brands like Apple and Samsung reach global markets, offering better products at competitive prices.
Next is the disadvantages of neoliberalism theory. So the first criticism is economic inequality. So in context of neoliberalism, a picture to describe economic inequality, it is a world where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So it can be seen in the privatization of public services such as healthcare and education. So the private company take over these services often prioritize profit over accessibility, which increased prices. So in some countries, private healthcare system make medical treatment expensive. So the rich can afford it, but the poor are left with a proper care, deepening the wealth gap. Okay, next we're moving on to the second disadvantages, which is environmental damages that is caused by the unchecked control of capitalist monopolies. So neoliberal policy prioritize profit maximizations. So by minimize government regulations, these policies are free to exploit natural resources without considering the long-term consequences. For instance, industries like mining or fossil are often prioritize profit over environmental protections. So this contributing to the serious pollutions like soil degradations, which excessively impact the poor and the marginalized group.
The positive impact towards the international relation. Privatization of government services. During the administration of Margaret Thatcher, the United Kingdom has emphasized private ownership and also reduction of government intervention. Thus, the United Kingdom has privatized their public sector as they believe it will increase efficiency in delivering services. Next, market liberalization under NAFTA. North American Free Trade Agreement or NAFTA has established a huge free trade zone by reducing and eliminating the tariff of import and export. It will strengthen the three nations, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, particularly in terms of economic connection and cooperation. Lastly, the negative impact, destruction of state sovereignty. Neoliberalism will threaten the state sovereignty as it will reduce the regulatory control since it emphasizes and prioritizes human freedom and minimal government interference in politics and economy.
Neoliberalism promote free market and economic independence in international relations. However, it also leads to economic inequality and state sovereignty erosion. Balancing the benefit of neoliberal policy with their negative impact is crucial for sustainable global development and addressing contemporary international relation issues.